It started with a number on a piece of paper. Corn, $4 a bushel. Tom Whitaker stared at that number for a long time. He'd been farming in western Kentucky for 26 years, the same rich, dark ground his father farmed before him, the same ground he'd promised himself he'd pass on to his own kids one day. And he knew, better than anyone, what $4 a bushel actually meant. It meant he was losing money, again. Not because he was a bad farmer, not because the weather had beaten him. It meant he was losing money because the market had collapsed beneath his feet, and for the third year in a row, there was nothing he could do to stop it. Corn, soybeans, wheat, 3 crops, 3 collapsing markets, one state watching it all fall apart, and a governor standing at a microphone warning anyone who would listen that something had to give. To understand what's happening right now, you have to go back to 2021. For one brief window, things were genuinely good. COVID scrambled supply chains, Russia invaded Ukraine, grain prices spiked to levels farmers hadn't seen in years, working capital built up, debt got paid down. Tom bought a new combine. Seemed like the right call. Then the window slammed shut. By 2025, the University of Kentucky's own economists were writing reports using words like crisis and survival. The numbers tell the story. To grow an acre of corn in Kentucky, you cover seeds, fertilizer, fuel, equipment, and land rent. Most Kentucky grain farmers rent their ground at $175 to $225 per acre. After all of that, on a standard corn-soybean rotation, the average western Kentucky farmer was staring at a net loss of $52 per acre. Not thin profit, negative $52. Every acre you plant, you lose money. The American Soybean Association confirmed it from another angle. Soybean farmers were losing $89 per planted acre in 2025, third straight year of losses. And wheat? The national break-even cost was nearly $8 a bushel. The market was paying $6. 3 crops, all of them underwater, all at the same time. Now let me introduce you to the villain of this story, because this didn't just happen on its own. China. For decades, China was the single largest buyer of American soybeans on the planet. That demand underpinned the entire market. Then the trade war hit. China pivoted to Brazil, to Argentina, and it didn't come back. By October 2025, Chinese purchases of American soybeans were down more than 60% compared to the year before. Governor Andy Beshear didn't mince words. He stood before cameras and said the trade war was eliminating entire markets that may never come back. And then he pointed out something that made Kentucky's situation uniquely devastating. The state's famous bourbon industry is a massive buyer of Kentucky corn. When retaliatory tariffs hit bourbon exports, corn farmers lost that market too. Same fields, same crops, hit twice. Beshear called it what it was, farmers being hit every way possible, losing multiple markets all at the same time. The federal government responded with checks. The USDA's Farmer Bridge Assistance Program sent Kentucky roughly $140 million, stacked on top of $129 million from the previous emergency program and $72 million in disaster relief. Real money, but University of Kentucky economists said something that cut through the relief. Strip out every government payment, every emergency dollar, and look at what the grain market alone was paying Kentucky farmers. What you find is a multi-year decline with no bottom in sight. The checks softened the blow. They didn't fix the hole. And here's what doesn't make the news. When a Kentucky grain farm goes under, it doesn't just hurt one family. The equipment goes to auction. The seed dealer loses an account he's had for 20 years. The mechanic who serviced those tractors loses a call he used to get every spring. The local diner loses a regular. Multiply that across hundreds of farms, and you start to understand what's quietly happening to rural Kentucky. Schools losing tax revenue, clinics losing patients, towns losing people. This is how rural communities die. Not with a bang, with the sound of a farm auction on a cold morning, an empty seat at a diner table where someone used to sit. Tom planted again this spring, because that's what farmers do. They look at the same ground year after year and make the bet that this time will be different. Whether the math finally works, nobody can say. But one thing is certain: the grain markets that feed Kentucky are broken in ways that go far deeper than any single bad harvest. And the governor, the economists, and the bankers all know it. Now you do too. Hit subscribe if this opened your eyes. Share it with someone who's never thought about where their food comes from. And drop a comment. Do you think the government is doing enough for the farmers who feed this country? I'll see you in the next one.